For years, law school applicants have been told that applying early is the golden ticket to getting admitted. September and October are painted as the magical months when your chances soar. Apply early or risk losing your spot. But what if I told you this advice is wrong for most people? Applying early doesn't guarantee much of anything unless your LSAT and GPA are already a school's median. Today, I'll break down the myth of rolling admissions, explain why it persists, and give you a step-by-step strategy to make your application count no matter when you apply. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now, this myth of law school rolling admissions that submitting early gives you a magical boost sticks around for a few reasons. Let's unpack them. The first and the biggest is that schools have an incentive to keep it alive. Some law schools explicitly tell applicants, apply early for better chances. Why? Because it's in their interest to get those applications early. Early applications help schools forecast their class and give them more control over the admissions process. But does this mean that schools prioritize weaker applicants who apply early? Absolutely not. Think of it like this. If a car salesman says, buy today and you'll get the best deal, do you believe them without question? Probably not. Law schools are no different. Yes, applying early gives them more data to work with, but it doesn't mean they'll admit someone below their standards just because they applied in September. The second big reason is one of misinterpreted patterns. But you gotta remember, correlation isn't causation. Many applicants see others who applied early get admitted early and assume that early timing caused the acceptance. But here's what's really happening. The strongest applicants, those with LSATs and GPAs above the medians, tend to apply early, but their results would likely be the same if they applied in December or January. The timing isn't what made them competitive, their qualifications did. The third big reason is misunderstanding how rolling admissions works. A common misconception is that applications are reviewed in the exact order they're received. So some believe if they submit first, they'll get read first. But that's not how most law schools actually operate. Schools prioritize their review based on the strength of the applicant's numbers, not the date it was submitted. If your application doesn't meet a school standards, submitting it early just means you'll wait longer to get denied. And this is what we see every year. Applicants rush to submit in September or October only to hear nothing until May, June, or even later. The harsh reality is that many of these applicants get denied after months of waiting. Early submission didn't help them at all, it just prolonged their anxiety. And the myth of rolling admissions isn't just wrong, it's actually harmful. Here's why. First, it distracts you from what actually matters. Instead of focusing on making your application the best it can be, you're instead racing against the clock. Maybe your personal statement isn't fully polished, or your resume could use more substance. Worse, maybe your LSAT score, the biggest factor in admissions, still isn't where it needs to be. If you rush to apply early, that often means you're submitting an application that isn't quite ready. Second, it wastes your time and energy. Waiting months to hear back from schools can be emotionally draining. And when anxiety sets in, it can lead to impulsive decisions, like constantly calling or emailing schools for updates. These actions don't help your chances and can even work against you, because admission officers notice when you're overly anxious or pushy, and it doesn't reflect well on your professionalism. The third big issue is that it sets you up for disappointment. When you buy into the myth, you expect results simply because you applied early. But when months go by without a response, or worse, when you get denied, you're left wondering what went wrong. The truth is, the timing wasn't the issue. It was the strength of your application. Now let's set the record straight on how rolling admissions actually functions. First, strength over speed. Admissions officers aren't reading files on a first-come, first-served basis. That would be too fair. Instead, they're looking for the best candidates. If your LSAT and GPA are at or above the medians, your application is going to stand out whether you submit it in October or January. Second thing to remember is that most decisions happen later in the cycle. The data consistently shows that the majority of admissions decisions occur after January. Even applicants who submitted early often don't hear back till the spring. Why? Because schools need time to evaluate their applicant pools and balance their class profiles. If they admit too many people early, they lose flexibility later in the cycle. The third big thing to remember is that scholarships are awarded later in the cycle. Timing is important for financial aid. Many schools are going to hold off on awarding scholarships until they have a better sense of the incoming class. Rushing to apply early won't necessarily lock in scholarship money, and in fact, it might hurt your chances if your application isn't as strong as it could be. So, how can you maximize your chances? First, you got to know your numbers. Start with the medians. Look at each school's LSAT and GPA median. If you're below the numbers, focus on improving them, whether it means retaking the LSAT, boosting your GPA, or adding some substantive work experience to your resume. Second, refine your application. Your personal statement, your resume, and your letters of rec all need to be flawless. Don't submit a rushed draft. Instead, take the time to craft a compelling narrative and present yourself as the best possible candidate. Third, maximize your LSAT score. This is the single most important factor in your application. If there's any room for improvement, retake the test. A higher LSAT score can open doors that early timing never could, and it's much better to apply later with a higher LSAT than earlier with a lower one. And if you'd like my help getting that high LSAT score, if you're retaking or not, my team and I would be glad to help you out. We offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. You can check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. And whatever you do, ignore the noise. Block Reddit, other forums, or any friends who insist early applications are everything. Follow your own path and trust the process. Don't give in to the chatter and apply when you're ready. Even if you send in your application in January, it's still early. The key is to apply when your application is at its best, not when you think the calendar says you should. Now, there's one scenario where early timing can make a difference, and that's when your LSAT and GPA are already above the medians. If that's the case, apply early, have at it. It can show enthusiasm and potentially secure an earlier decision. But if you're not above the median, the timing is not going to save you, and instead focus on getting that LSAT score up. And if you'd like my help, you could check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.